Hey, Sami here. I'm not your typical job counselor. I work remote and I travel the world as I kickstart careers. This is raw, real, and on the road.
Hi, I'm Sami Gardner, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. I am super excited because today I have Natisha Willis, who is the author of Coach Your Damn Self, and she is a board-certified coach, online entrepreneur from Chicago Southside who has a calling, a passion, a mission for reminding women leaders of their brilliance. She has been doing so many different things in her career, really leaving a legacy that I knew that when I wanted to bring someone on the show to explain the mysterious world of coaching and how people can become a coach, how they can really use their own unique passion to make an impact, I knew that Natisha would be a great person for me to just pick her brain so y'all can learn more about coaching. So I said a lot, Natisha, but I know that you're doing so much. Do you mind filling in the blanks of what I missed?
Oh, for sure. Thanks so much for having me, Sami.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to have you. Give us all the deets.
Okay. I mean, I guess that you pretty much covered the long of it. I guess the short of it is I am, like you mentioned, a board certified coach. I've been in the coaching industry unofficially for, I would probably say, about 10 years. Officially for about, when do we start? I guess when we start accepting money. Is that when it's official?
I mean, that's a good time. Money always works.
Probably since about 2014. I got into the coaching industry by way of academic advising. I was actually an academic advisor for adult students, adult learners, starting in 2007. And so my first career was actually in corporate accounting.
Oh, wow. You have a big personality for someone who was an accountant.
I know. I had no idea. I didn't know that it wasn't a match. I had just made up in my mind that I liked numbers and I liked counting and I liked business. And so I was going into accounting. That, for a first generation college student, that it made sense.
You're very stable. I mean, I'm imagining
girl,
the biggest personality in the accounting office. So.
Listen, let me tell you, it's stable if you can stabilize it. I had it only took me, I like to say that it only took me 3 full-time jobs and 4 internships to decide and to discover that accounting was not where I was supposed to be.
I guess lucky for the internet, you figured that out. If you had stayed an accountant, then we wouldn't have Coach Your Damn Self.
I'm telling you. So I left my last accounting job in 2007, 2006. I'm sorry. Went to grad school for leadership development, which is another one, which is definitely my passion. And got a job as an academic advisor for an online university. So I was basically doing all of the things that I'm doing now, but just for an online university, which is, encouraging, motivating, inspiring, and partnering with primarily adult learners, first generation, both college students and entrepreneurs, to pursue their goals and figure out the shortest way to get there.
Wow, and that must have been because I've worked for online schools, and then also for ITT tech. So I remember working with the same demographic, and for me, that's where I started doing what I call my Tony Robbins impression.
Yes.
I gotta be motivating, but it's a very interesting field. So how did working with these people kind of trigger that thing? Oh my God, did you have one day you woke up and the birds sang and you're like, I need to be a coach? Or how's that even go?
Well, I'm a little bit, so as you mentioned, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. And so being from an urban, primarily low-income community has made me quite competitive. And so I was actually, I was taught, well, let me back up a little bit. So I was an academic advisor, but we had a student success coaching department. And so I didn't see a whole lot of difference between what they were doing and what my job was. As a matter of fact, I felt like my job was a little bit more because I called my students, have conversations with them, quite lengthy conversations, staying in touch, trying to figure out, hey, what's going on with your progress? And in addition to that, just listening, being a listening ear. I think that's the biggest thing. And then partnering with them to kind of figure things out. Well, and in addition to that, my assumption of what coaching was, or my understanding, my limited understanding at the time of what coaching was, we also checked on registration numbers and attendance and grades and all that. So I thought, oh, I've got this coaching thing in the bag. So I applied for a position in this new department, and I didn't get the job. And as a matter of fact, the hiring manager told me that I did not have a proper understanding of what coaching was. And I actually took full offense to that comment because I'm a researcher also. So I'd already been to the ICF, or International Coaching Federation website. I'd studied the coaching definition. I'd done all this research. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how could you say that to me? So I actually stayed away from coaching, to be quite honest, for some time. But I decided that I would go the long route. I was like, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. But you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to do coaching. I'm going to do everything else. And so I got certified as a Myers-Briggs type inventory practitioner. I actually started a career in massage therapy. Believe it or not. Believe it or not.
The place. You got a lot of skills.
I do. But you know what? The thing that they all have in common is ultimately I want to help people live better lives. It took a little bit of time backpacking for a year, working with a women's organization, a national women's organization where I was in charge of development and marketing. And really just, and teaching online classes. I really, really said, okay, I'm going to do this coaching thing when I actually got a coach. There was an organization that offered free coaching for low-income women. At the time, I was living out in my backpack for 12 months. I had made this personal commitment that I was going to do it. And someone had connected me with an organization that offers free life coaching for, I think, 6 months. And they partnered me with the executive director of the organization. And so it actually became more of a partnership where I was coaching her, because my master's degree is actually in nonprofit management and fundraising, on how to fundraise, and she was coaching me. And that organization turned around and sponsored my life coach certification. Okay, let's do this coaching thing. Let's get serious about it.
Okay, so I love your origin story and how you throw out stuff like, oh yeah, I just traveled for a year, and then I got an executive, and just the things you do when you're a modern woman on the go. And it's like, no, I think I was binging on Netflix during this time while you were traveling the globe. So I love it. So you're an international woman of mystery and coaching. You meet your mentor. You decide you're going to settle on coaching.
Yeah.
So how do you like? But that's the thing, because I've known people who want to be coaches. But how did you make the connection between the desire to coach people, to make this impact, and how did you start building a business? How do you go from part-time to prime time, if you will?
Okay. I like the way you phrase that. Part-time to prime time. I mean, for me, coaching was always, and a little bit still part-time, right? Even though it's what I do full-time now. I have always enjoyed strategizing and really just partnering and helping people to discover their own answers, right? And so when I had when I was going through my life coach certification, one of the things that I struggled with was, this idea of coaching as, well, we're going to partner together one-on-one, and I'm going to walk this path with you, and we're going to take this journey together. I struggle with that, right? Because that's not my natural personality. That's not where I shine. As a matter of fact, that type of coaching drains me, and I feel as if my clients get the absolute least results. And so that's partially how I came up with Coach Your Damn Self, is because I realized, well, what was it that was making me so successful, right? And by successful, I don't mean like purely financially successful, but I just mean, what was it that I was doing that allowed me to do things that other people wanted to be doing, right? Whether that was the traveling, whether that was just living a life of freedom or feeling free, whether that was just being courageous and doing things that other people thought was courageous, and I was just trying not to be bored with life, you know. And I realized that a large part of what I was doing was really just asking myself like really deep, intense questions. And as the more training that I received, the better my questioning process became. So then I learned how to literally coach myself, because that's what every great coach does, right? They ask questions that are pretty much intuitively guided, and you figure out kind of where your own answers are based on the intuitive, like the coach that you're working with, them tapping into their intuition based on what you're telling them.
Okay.
And so
talk about the questions, because I think for some people who didn't grow up with like journaling or things like that, like maybe you can give like just an example of what would be like a question to ask yourself.
Sure. Well, I talk to myself a lot, right? So I didn't grow up journaling, but I talk to myself. And so, you know, they say, there's a saying that, you know, it's fine to talk to yourself as long as you don't answer yourself. Well, I would always answer myself. Like, I literally had conversations with myself, typically in the car. And depending on what was going on in my life, like that would determine what kind of line of questioning. Like, for example, I remember when I first moved to Baltimore, I wanted a PhD in higher education administration. I'd been in higher ed. I loved higher ed. I liked the idea of higher ed. And so I had moved from Chicago to Baltimore, and I remember having a basement apartment, like a studio apartment. And in my mind, right, I've always been single. I don't have any children. And in my mind, I thought that in order for me to get married and have children, right, because that's one of the things on my goal list, I needed to be living my best life possible. And I really just, you know, upon, I think, just moments of reflection, I started looking at my life and what kind of things did I need to change, or who did I need to become in order to have the life that I wanted, you know. So I'm looking at myself as a single woman in a new city with no children and no really connection to community or anyone else. So I started thinking about, okay, so if I want to be married and I want to have children, what is it that I think is standing in my way now? Right? And so then it just became, okay, so what's my relationship like with men? Okay, so what do I think about men? Well, why do I think that? Where did that come from? Right? So really just literally asking myself questions. So it was almost, you know, this mixture between therapy and coaching. So if you've ever been to a therapist, and I don't know, I'm not going to say if you've ever been to a therapist, right? Because sometimes we downplay some of our natural gifts, but I'm naturally very analytical. As well as I love psychology and I love understanding people. And so like deeply, like I have a deep passion for understanding people. And so whenever I've worked with a psychologist or a therapist or a coach, you know, when they're asking me questions, typically I'm taking notes, and I'm not necessarily taking notes on what they're asking me, but why they're asking me it, if that makes sense. Right? It's like, what are they trying to get to? So that I can then ask myself those same questions at a later date.
What I find very interesting about this is that you're really letting yourself guide this process. And for a coach, just to bring it back to like people who want to be coaches, how important is for a coach to coach themselves? Is this something
hugely
one and done, or like is it all the time, or do you just do like a regular like oil change for your brain? Like how does this work?
I think the better the coach that you are, the more that you will coach yourself, because you're really your first client, right? When you don't have any other clients, you are your first client. And so the more practice that you get on not just coaching yourself, right? Not just asking yourself questions, but really identifying what's standing in your way. Why do you, things like, why do you procrastinate, right? Why are you not moving forward? What's there, right? And getting crystal clear and honest with those answers, the better coach that your future clients will receive, right? So that's my belief. Because we tend to, just as humans, right? Energy exists, this whole idea of energy, and like attracts like. And so the reason that certain people are attracted to us is because we have a certain type of energy that is similar to them, and that we've either overcome or are in the process of overcoming something that they are faced with now or will face in the future. Right? And so if we're able to not just identify our blind spots by ourselves, right? Because I'm huge on having my own coach, right? So I believe coaching yourself is something you do in addition to having a coach. Like it almost takes your coaching to the next level. It's like icing on pound cake, right? Pound cake is good by itself. But you put icing on it, and you put cherries, and you put sprinkles and ice cream and all the stuff that you like. It's like it takes it up like 10 notches, and you like 10x your coaching practice. When you not only have a coach, but then you're reflecting on the coaching that you've received. And I'm also huge on coaches not only having coaches, right, like people who officially call themselves coaches, but also have a therapist. Right? Because therapy talks about things that you've faced in the past, things that that typically are underlying what we're experiencing right now, but we don't necessarily realize it. Like a lot of what we experience and what we go through now has root causes back to, how our parents treated us, what we experienced in childhood, especially adolescence, right? When you're first coming into age and going into puberty, like that 11 to 14, sometimes 16, that age, that, 5 years are pivotal. And so those of us who go into the helping profession of coaching, there's usually something that occurred during that time that is driving us. And it's important to know that because, in my opinion, again, this is what makes you the best coach possible. This is what makes your clients receive the absolute best coaching possible. And this is what ultimately helps you to stand out. You don't have to worry about competition because there's no one else like you.
Yeah, I'm loving everything you're throwing down, especially the fact about how nobody gets out of middle school without some sort of emotional baggage. Like that's just what middle school is designed for. It's like none.
Like nobody does it.
If you can't survive this, you're not ready to be an adult ever. So,
puberty is a traumatic time.
It's awful. So what it sounds like is that for coaches, that before you put up your website or whatever, you have to figure out how to get right with yourself and know that is an ongoing process. But after you kind of set up your wellness routine, how you need to be coaching yourself, what is the next step for a coach?
Well, and let me be clear, right? Because I'm not a big fan of being all, concerned about a website as the very first thing you do. I don't know if you follow Rihanna, but today or yesterday, she released her lingerie line. And she was actually posting pictures of the lingerie on Instagram. And when you went to the link in the bio, it was actually a Bitly link. And when you clicked on the Bitly link, it was just a simple landing page that says with a countdown on it.
Oh
so I'm huge on, I'm like, Rihanna, come on now. And most of us are concerned about a website. Like that's the thing that we procrastinate on the absolute most. So I'm big on, and a good website is always under construction. Like it's never done, right? Because your brand is constantly growing and developing. And so as a coach, you as a human, you're a human being who's also growing and developing. So I'm just big on just get out there and start doing what it is that you do. As coaches, a huge part of what we do is, especially on social media, is simply documenting our journey. right? And you can document it however you want, whether that's pictures, whether that's memes, whether that's quotes, whether that's videos, live stream. Just get out there and start documenting. I think that's the best thing you can do, not just as a coach, but as a freaking human being who wants to help other people, right? Show what exactly it is that you're doing. Because if you've read, what is that? Jab, 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 right hook by Gary Vee, right? He talks about not just when you're looking to build business, you want to build relationships. And so you don't want every post that people see from you related to your business. You know, that people will turn off. They will stop paying attention. As a matter of fact, what I found is that people came to me for coaching initially based on what I was posting just about my regular life. So I say, just keep doing that. Post about your regular life. What are you actually doing? What are you experiencing? Right? We see a lot of lifestyle, sales of lifestyle, but that's real. Like, people want what you have. So show us, pull the curtain back. You know, those are the best stories typically is, okay, it's good to know your success, but how do you handle failure?
Okay.
Right? What are you afraid of? Right? When we're reading autobiographies, isn't that what we want to know? We want to know how you failed. We can see your success. We want to know the dirty stuff.
I mean, that's so true. One of the people that I follow, not because I watch their show, just because like their business sense is so on point. And some people might laugh, but the Kardashians, like, the thing is that whatever you feel about that whole family, and there could be a lot of opinions, you can't deny that somehow Kim took a sex tape with Ray J, which we all know is Brandy's brother. Like, he didn't have like a fan base. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cared about Ray J, even when it was like appropriate to like know who he was. You know, she did that, where she looks bored and like has made a whole empire for her whole family. And if you actually watch them, like if you watch like their Instagram posts and stuff like that, you're right. Like, they have all these ways to buy from them, but half of what they're doing is just like, here's like me with a new purse, and like, here's
it's affiliate marketing.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's crazy.
It's affiliate. So you're literally selling a lifestyle, but you have to be careful, right? Because if you're not if you lose focus on actually helping people, you start focusing on selling to people, and then you're liable to do anything just for the sale, right? But if you focus on how your life is a lesson, right, then whatever it is that and not even just, okay, so your life is a lesson. Yes, that's one perspective, right? Let's think of this thing as a Rubik's Cube. So your life is is a lesson. Your life is also growing and changing constantly. Like, you're also a human being. So what that does when you realize, hey, I'm a human that's growing and changing. I don't have to be perfect. Nobody's expecting me to be perfect. As a matter of fact, the more perfect you are, the more of a disconnect your audience feels. Right? So if I'm able to share, hey, this is how I'm feeling and failing, if you focus on just that piece, right, you build a deeper connection with your audience, and they'll want to talk to you. They'll want your support. They'll want your guidance and your partnership.
Okay, so it sounds like for a lot of new coaches, just let me test my understanding, is that the first step for them is to understand that they got to be right with themselves, look within. The next thing is understand that when they are starting, not to get really distracted with all like the technical stuff, just throw up like a Facebook page or an Instagram and just start sharing.
Practicing.
Your gift, your wisdom, whatever. So I find it really interesting what you're talking about on making sure that it's like, do the lifestyle, but don't, like, you have to like make sure that it stays real and authentic, and not do the manufactured lifestyle where you're like renting a limo and pretending it's yours, but really you're just like, you know, at the parking lot where they keep them. Like, could you talk a little bit more about how new coaches can kind of, you know, walk that sort of line? Because once you get, you know, you get some more money in, because not everybody stays a newbie coach. Like, how do you balance that? Because you've had a lot of success. How do you balance the transition of like, I'm just hustling to find coaching clients, and oh my God, like, I'm a name, I have like a following, I have a book out. Like, how do I like not go mad with power or whatever.
Well, I think a huge part of it, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that has been something that I still struggle with, right? I recently had an experience with one of my assistants who idolized me. And I also had an experience where I had a mentor whom I idolized. And this has happened to me twice, where I've had mentors who I have placed on a pedestal. And what I realized is the ego is a very powerful thing. And there's a ton of different ways that different paths that you can take to keep your ego in check. But I think a couple of the most powerful things that I've done is really encouraging the people. Number one, I always have a team, right? One of the things I say is freedom requires friends. And so I always have other people who I'm bouncing ideas off of with. And I'm, not necessarily for validation, but just sharing so I can hear my idea out loud, put it in the atmosphere. So I have other people who are not just yes men to me, around me, right? So that's number one, keeping people around you who say, no, that's a bad idea. Or why would you do that, right? People who question you. So then you're forced to prove your point or defend your ideas. Sometimes that can be good. Of course, with all things, you need balance, right? So keeping people around me who help me to remain balanced. Number two is I reflect pretty much every day. Like I make it a point to journal every freaking day. I'm working on getting better at reading when I'm journaling, but at least I'm getting it out there, right? So at least, just documenting the journey every day. Facebook is really good at reminding me of what I wrote, because I typically make at least 1 or 2 Facebook posts every day. So documenting the journey, keeping good people around you, and having someone who's outside of your normal life, like having a therapist, like I said, is huge. Someone who you can reflect with. And it's even better if you have a therapist who's certified in SBT, which is solution-based therapy, or CBT, which is cognitive-based therapy, which is basically as close to coaching as you can get. Because those types of therapists are not just focused on helping you, are not just focused on revealing and digging into your past. They're also focused on helping you reveal and create a new future as well. So CBT and SBT type therapists are amazing, because they're pretty much coaches. They just don't call themselves coaches, right? So, but we use a lot of the same coaching techniques. So having someone on your team who's not there every day, who's objective voice.
And they can see
someone
how
outside.
Your head's gotten. When people are too close, they don't notice that maybe your head swelled a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, I've got to be honest, as an entrepreneur who's creating something brand new that's never been done before, in the way that I'm doing it, it takes you've got to have some type of ego there. I'm convinced that when you are doing something, you're trailblazing, there has to be a measure of ego present, right? You've got to, because you have the audacity to think that your ideas are good enough in order to put out into the marketplace. So it just requires balance. It's not, I think sometimes we talk about eliminating the ego, or how, narcissistic personalities are so negative, right? But I was talking to a therapist, and she was saying to me, not my therapist, but another therapist, how everyone has a measure of narcissism, like everyone does. And so, getting out of the habit of labeling things as negative, oh, that's bad, I want to stay away from that. There's two sides of the spectrum here. You have people who are only solely focused on themselves, and you have the other side is people who are not focused on themselves at all. They totally disregard their own health and their, what's beneficial for them. So we've got to figure out some way to be somewhere in the middle of that, right? Where it's like, okay, this is what works for me, and this is how I can help others as well.
You bring up an interesting point, because people can overcorrect. So what is one thing that a new coach can do to put up boundaries? Because I bet that can be a business where it can be hard to like set that up. I know that the interview, we're going to have to like move on a little bit, but I do want to know, what is like your best tip for new coaches on setting up healthy boundaries in their business?
I think I can't say it's anything more than what I've already said. Like talking it over when you notice that there's a boundary being overstepped, either by yourself or by a client. Talking it over with your therapist, a trusted confidant. You've got to have someone on your team who has an objective point of view, who's not a part of the business or not a part of any other space in your life, who only holds that one role. And that role is to help you become a better version of yourself, the best version of yourself. Not a better version, but the absolute best version. I don't think there's any other way around it, because there's always going to be something that comes up. That's why I'm like, keep a therapist on speed dial. Like as entrepreneurs, we're always facing anxiety and fear and emotional eating and all kinds of trash. I mean, living your best life, seriously, living your best life is a full-time job. And as coaches, that's really what we're doing. We're purporting that we're living our best lives. So you better have your best support team.
There you go. It takes a village. You know what?
It does.
Natisha, you have like, I bet for all the, the aspiring coaches who are listening, their minds are probably in overload, because you've dropped a lot of good tips on, I mean, that's the thing. Like sometimes when you learn about coaching, it feels like this mysterious world of people, having mojitos on the beach in Bali, so you've done a good job, given the real deal on one coach's journey. So thank you for that. But before we close out the interview, I really want to make sure that people know where to find you. And if you have anything new that you're offering, give us the full rundown of the who, what, and where of you on the internet.
Absolutely. So as you said, coaching can be daunting. It can be daunting. It can be a little bit overwhelming. And so one of the things that I've created is really called the Coach Your Damn Self Challenge, right? And it's what I discovered in the midst of experiencing, or right after experiencing, burnout. I'd already known that creating your coaching practice is really about some of the things that you've overcome in order to help others. But the piece of Coach Your Damn Self that I had not necessarily tapped into was the importance of putting ourselves first, not only as coaches, but as women and as those in the helping professions. And so the Coach Your Damn Self Challenge is really the steps that I myself have taken in order to avoid burnout, heal from burnout, and ensure that I'm putting myself first, that I am coaching myself first before I attempt to coach and be of service to others. So you can go to coachyourdamnself.com in order to check that out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like this is definitely going to be a really hot episode for everybody. All those links can also be at the show notes, guys. So when you're listening, if you didn't catch all that, you'll find it at careerkickstartacademy.com in the podcast section. So thank you again, Natisha. You have just blown our minds. Everybody go to coachdamnself.com. It has really, I like that, because sometimes coaching can seem so airy-fairy sometimes. Like I'm a girl who likes some substance. So I really like what you're giving out. 'Cause I feel like for some of us, we're like, I don't want to sniff a scented candle and like play around with a yoni egg. I just want to lead a better life. I feel like you're a breath of fresh air right there. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And those things have a place, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm a Reiki master with an accounting degree. So I'm kind of somewhere in the middle.
What haven't you done? I feel like you've done everything. I feel like this show would
That's my goal in life, is to do everything. That is literally my goal in life. I want to ride this thing till the wheels fall off.
And you're doing it. If you just model what this energy source that you have, I feel like you would be, everybody would have a little.
It's Coach Your Damn Self. That is it. That's what I'm trying to get everybody to recognize. It is coaching yourself. It is putting yourself first. It is, and so that's what I go through. This is what you do in order to get this level of energy. You got to pour into your own cup before you attempt to pour into others.
Wise words, and we're going to close the show with that because I can't say anything better. Thank you again, Natisha, and
thank you
all for listening. I'm Sami Gardner, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. Bye, everybody. Academy.com